Welcome back. You're still watching JKLIVE from Daystar University, and we're here with the panelists from the National Treasury, the Kenya Revenue Authority, Parliament of Kenya, that is the National Assembly, and ISPAC, and you have an audience here to walk us through the questions that they may have to the panelists here on stage. Cosmas Murigi is asking, ask why they want to tax freelance writing, yet they are taxed abroad, and with artificial intelligence, there are no more jobs as before. What percentage do they want to tax, and how will they affect this? Maybe you want to take that down. Progressive reduction of corporation tax to 10% or below may initially reduce tax collections, but will ensure great local and foreign investment into our economy. As a result, there will be more employment for our desperate youth, and KRA would soon recover taxes through pay-as-you-earn. Is that realistic? Moses is saying, taxing agricultural goods and services will directly and indirectly impact on farmers and consumers in one way or another. There's a member of parliament, Godano Mushomba, who is asking, asks CS why KRA tax system has failed to process tea trade in Mombasa tea auction, millions of kilos unsold. You can take that down. Then we take a question from Alex. Alex at the back. He's from Boda Boda Association of Kenya in Nairobi.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bwana Sam. My name is Alex.
Go ahead. Raise your question. I already introduced you.
Okay. My question is, as a Boda Boda, you know, sisi tuna contribute sana pakubwa kwa hii economy ya hii nchi. And nikiwa hapa na represent at least 2.6 million riders across the country. So wanasema kwamba tunachangia kwa mafuta, kwa spare part, kwa pikipiki yenyewe, kwa ile oil ambayo tunaweka, kwa insurance ambayo tunakata, na hata kwa driving license ambazo tunapata. But now wanauliza what are the amendments ambazo wameweka, sisi wameweka kuhakikisha kwamba hawa bodaboda wana benefit at the end of the day. Asante.
Okay. All right. We can take a question from it.
Thank you. My name is Jilna Shah, Vice Chair of the Public Finance Sector Board from KEPSA. The question we would like to ask actually the Treasury is, we published the National Tax Policy. We have also published the medium-term revenue strategy in the course of the between last year and this year. And now the key areas that they were trying to target was stability in terms of taxes or predictability, more so. And what we find is a lot of changes in tax laws. And that's really causing a bit of concern that are we really following the policies, or is there always going to be this unpredictability despite it being embedded in our national tax policy?
All right. The gentleman at the back.
My name is Duncan Mwangi. I'm from informal sector in Nairobi. We have a group or an organization which is trying to make our businesses at least formal. And I'm talking about the micro, small businesses. That has been our target, so that at least you can be able to engage with the government. I'm a bit concerned, or I'm okay with what the government is saying, that a lot of informal sectors are not taking part in tax contribution. But my question, maybe what I would like to ask the government, apart from what they are thinking to do, because I have something in my mind, maybe they want to go all down to kuangalia M-Pesa zetu venye zinafanya, maybe that's what I'm thinking. But my question is, have they asked themselves, why are people in informal sector not paying taxes the way they want? One, lack of information. Education, if I have to go through a tax, through a cyber for me to pay taxes, then that means that thing is still not accessible to me. The process itself is not accessible to me. And that is one of the challenges that we're having as our members. Okay. We actually don't know which is which. Like now, for example, KRA have not been very friendly to informal sector. And this is a scenario. somebody comes maybe to a particular market. Tunaona watu wako na suti na tie. Tunasikia ni KRA. I'm telling you for sure, everybody will leave their shops. Whether they have licenses, they have compiled, because they don't know what these people will come to say. Go to any building in Nairobi, all these malls that you see. Wakisikia KRA, what do? They close their doors, zote zinafungwa. At that particular time, maybe what does that tell you? That tells you the people who are in these businesses, either they don't have information.
Okay.
So, and now I believe KLIA have a responsibility to make sure that they ought not to assume ya kwamba tunaelewa.
All right.
Thank you.
That's okay, Duncan. Then yourself.
Thank you. My name is Miano, and I would want to direct this especially to my friend Waziri. Good evening, Waziri. Good to know this day you are that side. Last time we were in Citizen, we were on the same side. Nevertheless, I will proceed and ask this to the Treasury House. One, when you are coming up with this finance bill, do you put into consideration the Laffer curve? Your predecessor is on record, well, it is public knowledge, what he said about the Laffer curve and whether you are putting that into consideration. Two, are you, when these tax finance bills are coming, are you putting into consideration the national tax policy and especially a long term, at least to give confidence to the investors? Because one, investors need, as he said, predictability and simplicity, well, certainty in taxation. Every investor wants to know what is the certainty of the taxes they are coming to pay for the whatever period they will operate in the country. And last one, I want also to ask about, I heard you talk about farming, whether you are not able to tax farmers, but I want you to put into consideration what are the cash crops, because you cannot go taxing subsistence farming. If you want to milk a cow, you must make sure the cow is full and the cow is fed. So what about most of these cash crops in Kenya, we know it is tea, coffee, milk, maybe, well, that from where I come from. So what are you doing to make sure that you have protected the cash crop in Kenya?
All right.
And when I was growing up, I was told that agriculture is the backbone of the country, and most of the exports we do is from the cash crop. So what are you doing to protect the cash crop first, so that you're able to tax when we already have gotten enough export and sales?
All right.
Thank you.
Pass the mic to Leonard.
Good evening. My name is Leonard Wanyama. I am from the East African Tax and Governance Network. And my contribution to the submissions of the new tax in relation to what has happened in the course of the year is the fact that even as you listen to our colleague from the informal sector, this debate is not only about the public participation, but particularly for government and its agencies and departments, there has to be public interaction beyond that participation. What do I mean? Particularly for small businesses, they have three main challenges: returns, disputes that you hear where we talk of kanjo, and awareness. When you look at the conversation we had earlier at some point about revenue service agents, the challenge was the orientation, which is paramilitary in nature. And that is being received very wrongly. While there might be a need in terms of a government agency and their training, discipline of officers and so forth, there needs to be an expansion of who is involved as a revenue service agents for those three purposes. Lawyers for the disputes, and it's across the board, even as you go to KEPSA and so forth, community-based people, sociologists for this awareness, and then also when you think of the returns, that is mainly accountants. So bringing all these people together to expand that, so that you can then inculcate that human rights-based approach that is necessary, because this tax question is beyond just collection of money, but a democratic formation issue for the country today, and the tensions that are happening.
All right,
currently.
thank you, Leonard. Let's take those 5 first so that we can have responses. You want to begin, Chairman?
Yes, I want to start with a question about Alex from the border sector, because this is one of the wins that you have for the informal sector, especially for border sectors. A few months ago, the Committee of Finance and National Planning did conduct an inquiry on a program we call Buy Now, Pay Later. This is where a border rider wants to acquire a motorcycle.
Yep.
They are told pay deposit of, say, 10,000 shillings. Every day, you'll be paying 300 shillings. And then at the end of the term, you get to pay to own that particular motorcycle. It is very popular with borders, and it has also cropped now with mobile phones, especially smartphones. Now, the challenge that this sector has been facing is this particular service provider is providing credit. Every credit facility provided in Kenya operates under a particular regulatory regime. If you borrow money from a bank, you are protected through the Banking Act, which is regulated by Central Bank through the Central Bank of Kenya Act. If you borrow through your SACCO, you are protected by the SACCOs and SACCO Societies Regulatory Act, and therefore you are safeguarded in terms of exploitation, in terms of the interest rates, and in terms of conduct of business. And all these other particular, any other banking model that you might think, apart from lenders to our motorcycles and lenders for our smartphones. So you'll find a border rider will go take a bike. Just when they are about to complete making their payments and they miss one installment, their motorcycle is repossessed. That motorcycle is not even registered in the name of the rider. They do not even have a record of even how much they have paid for that particular motorcycle. They have no information about the terms and conditions of that motorcycle, and especially the interest rates. And this is where we've seen massive exploitation of our border sectors.
Okay.
So our biggest win, the biggest win they have on the Business Laws Amendment Bill is that now it is now bringing that program of Buy Now, Pay Later under the purview of Central Bank of Kenya, and therefore bringing them to statutory regulations just like the banks are. If you and I buy a car on a loan from a commercial bank, which we all do, and we default one payment or get late, we don't see the banking come to tow our cars away, because that particular habit or that particular conduct is regulated by the CBK, by the Central Bank Authority of Kenya and the Banking Act.
Right.
Now, that is where the border sectors have the biggest win on the Business Laws Amendment Bill.
All right,
That
Chairman.
was my submission.
Allow me to skip you for a moment, Christine, for a good reason. There specific questions that were coming to your side on the questions of stability and predictability of taxes, complying with the national tax policy, and others, which you may want to respond about.
Yeah, let me respond to the question of predictability and certainty of taxes. That is a very cardinal principle of taxation. The tax should be predictable, should be certain. But you must also balance it off with other principles of taxation, one of which is simplicity, the other one is fairness. So it is in our tax policy to make sure that tax is predictable, and that is why we have said we will not be making many changes to our tax laws. As a matter of fact, we are even discussing at the Treasury whether next year we should just avoid bringing anything called finance bill at all. So, but there are certain unfair imbalance between taxes that we must correct, where some people pay tax and others don't. I don't think anyone in this room would be happy if they pay tax and others don't pay tax. And some of the changes that we are bringing actually is not even bringing any tax yield. It is supposed to help Kenyans. For example, there is this proposal that we are bringing some about offsetting the overpaid tax against the taxpayers' outstanding tax debts. There are cases where you find someone has overpaid tax and is supposed to be refunded by KRA. But then KRA has not refunded this individual or this trader. And yet, again, now he has incurred tax liability. He's required to pay. To improve his liquidity, we allow that the Commissioner General would accept to offset that tax against the amount that is owed to that person by Kenya Revenue Authority. So the amendments that we are bringing, in fact, a lot of them, the larger percentage is to help make life easy for Kenyans. It is not even to yield tax. But there are some which would yield tax. These ones we are bringing because of fairness in taxation. We want every Kenyan to pay their fair share of tax. And that is why when you hear someone has talked about farming, I am not saying that we are going to go to farmers and start demanding for taxes. No. But if you are doing farming and you are supposed to pay tax, why don't you pay it? That is the question that we are asking. That if you are doing farming and you are making money, there is income, not subsistence. Subsistence is not income. If I grow maize and eat it, there is no income. So what will be taxed? Nothing. So we tax income out of farming. If you grow maize and you sell it and you make money, or you buy maize and you go and sell it, then you are making money, you are doing business.
How will you do it, Waziri?
Yep.
How will you do it?
How will we do it?
If I grow maize in Uasin Gishu and I sell to the market or the grain stores there.
You see, I think we have lived in a system where tax is viewed as punitive to the extent that we think Kenyans should not be responsible. First of all, to pay tax, we need Kenyans to be responsible. And I understand Kenyans completely, why they have issues. Why would someone who is selling peremende pay tax? They are also in the villages, just like those who buy maize and go and sell it. So ordinarily, you are supposed to pay tax as a responsibility as a citizen.
I think what I'm asking is because it is very easy for people that are in the formal sector. It is at the point the employer is paying the tax, they deduct and remit by the 9th of the following month.
Yes.
If I am a farmer in Uasin Gishu and I've sold maize, the season is ripe and I've sold maize to a grain store, how do you enforce for compliance?
But you see, Sam, that is why we are saying we must have a system. Those grain stores are supposed to be licensed. They are supposed to be registered. We need to have a system. That is why we have even a problem today with the rental income tax, because we have not synchronized our systems. We have the Ministry of Lands with the records. We have those who are approving developments with the records. Why can't we have this information captured in our system so that if I have an apartment and I'm collecting rent, then 7.5% of it is collected? So we must just be responsible so that we reduce taxation. In fact, one of the questions which was asked was why don't we reduce corporate tax? That is the policy that we have in our national tax policy. And that is the focus of the government.
Right.
We want to reduce corporate tax to at least 25%. We want to reduce VAT to 14% at least.
All right.
We want to reduce income tax as well. But we can only be able to do that if every Kenyan who is supposed to pay tax pays tax.
Now, unfortunately, I have to take a break, but I'll come back with the PS and Commissioner General here, as well as Christine, to respond on the specific questions that have been raised, but also Christine to also help us with some more issues to raise. Stay tuned. You're watching JKL Live or JK Live from Daystar University. We're back in a moment.